Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Jen.
And we're from Relationship Rising, and we're here to share some thoughts and concepts and ideas and stories about our journey, knowing that many of you may be curious and interested about who we are, where we've come from, where we're going, and our journey. Yeah.
One of the things I never thought I'd be speaking to is like what happens behind closed doors in relationship. One of the things I never, ever, ever thought I would be stepping into and sharing with people is the places of my greatest struggles and the greatest pains. So as Dan and I have moved through our journey, we realised that this is the goal, this is the space we actually need to be able to share and discuss where our challenges are and where some of the relationship struggle can be turned to gold.
And for those of you who don't know us, I always like to share that I always say, if our relationship had always been plain sailing, we wouldn't be doing this. But because we've been through many, many storms, and there's times where I thought our ship was going to sink, and somehow it didn't sink, and we figured out how to keep the boat afloat. And not only that, now it's almost like the sun's shining, we're on a yacht, we're flying along, we've visited desert islands, and all is great. And that's why I love to do this, because it's almost a message of hope that we have been to those dark places of frustration and tension and and there's a way out, and that's what I'm excited to share.
Often find like the best soccer coaches, the best hockey coaches, the best horse riding coaches are not the ones who have natural talent. So I would love to put up my hand and say I'm naturally untalented in relationship. I had a lot to learn. And thank goodness you stuck with me as I thrashed and crashed around with incompetence, incongruence, disconnect, disharmony, and being completely lost inside myself. It's a humbling place to be, to actually realize those best coaches are the ones that can zoom in and zoom out from their experience and pick out the qualities and the faculties and the pieces that need adapting and adjusting to bring something up to a different performance and a different way of relating to the game we play, which in this field is relationships.
And if I can speak into that, you say you didn't feel you were naturally good at relationships. I didn't feel like I was either. And there was a part of me kind of felt I was useless at it, and there's a part of me projected that you were useless at it, and maybe we were both useless together. And now we've come through it, what I actually see is almost we were different. I had gifts, I had gold, and I've been able to recognize that I had some gold. And I realize now you had some gold, and it was very different gold to my gold. And it's almost like we both had different gold, and that's why there was sometimes this tension and frustration, but we've both been able to bring the gold out of each other. And it's like, wow.
So you've touched on an interesting point. So I was in a 17-year marriage and decided to turn away from my ex, and you guys talked about that you felt that you had challenges, but you actually turned towards each other, right? So often people get to that point in a relationship where you feel all of that charge and tension, but you don't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
So at those points where you've gone, do I turn towards my partner or do I turn away? What's happened for you? Why do you choose to keep turning towards each other?
Yeah. So if I can speak into this, for me, there was I've always been like someone who won't quit. I am gonna figure this out. And deep down there was also a huge, deep love for Jenny, even though there's part of me kind of, does she even love me? I don't even know if I love her. Half the time I can't stand her. It's driving me mad. So there's all that going on. But I was like, I want to make this work. And we had children. So it was like, there is a part where you've got to keep going and looking. The key thing was to figure out almost a roadmap and a plan and something which is different from what you're doing. So insanity is just to keep doing the same thing. And for me, it was, I got to the stage where I literally had to go, okay, what I'm doing is not working after 18 years of being together. I need to do something different. And it's actually just over there, about 4 yards over there, literally on the carpet, is where I stood and looked out across the valley, and I roared. And I never forget it, and I absolutely roared, and it was like, I have had enough. And I'm going to leave this place, and I'm going to go on a journey, and I'm going to figure this out. It meant that much to me. It was like, I don't care if I lose my job or whatever. This is something I'm going to do in my life, for me, for my partner, for my children. I'm going to figure this out. And I left and went to America and drove around in a car, and that's a whole nother story. But I basically went on this spiritual trip, call it a spiritual trip, to figure out a new way of doing relationship.
Okay, so you were saying your first response to this is you went inward into you. So
yeah.
I asked a question about you turning to each other, and you quickly talked about how you needed to focus in on you. So let's unpack this a little bit, right?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
So how does that work for you, Jen?
Yeah, the choice point to lean in or lean out, to come closer or to exit, move away, has been a huge thing. And I often find when I'm working with couples, and this is the pattern I used for myself, is where the struggle and the pain is what we would call the relationship field. The space that's created, or the game that is happening, the game that is being played by two parties. Who are the players? Myself, my partner, Dan, Dan and myself. So I can micro move things around, like move the furniture around on the field, change the goals and the positions, but that doesn't really do anything, because what's happening is I'm the player. I'm the one bringing the game. I'm bringing the rules. I'm bringing the strategies. I'm bringing my skills. I'm bringing my weaknesses. I am bringing my gifts and my genius, and I'm bringing my blind spots. And Dan's doing the same. So the relationship field was not broken. It was a perfect representation. It was a perfect exempling of life saying, this is who you are. Mm-hmm. So within that, as Dan, moved away for many weeks and actually took his journey, there was no relationship field there anymore. So all of what I was seeing outside of me, it's like, okay, I actually have to look at what that is inside me. What am I feeling happening here? What am I bringing? Mm-hmm. If I am spilling out my contents into the relationship field, I want to get to know, what am I spilling out? What am I exuding? What am I emanating that is creating between us a huge disharmony, not a safe space for children to be in, not a loving space for either of us to thrive. So I was very curious, how could I turn something from what felt like a survival pattern into a relationship that was thriving, without making it being about bring another person to the field, bring a new person to the field, because I truly believed that it's like that change could happen inside of me. And yeah.
So Dan, did you want to jump in there quickly?
Yeah. The piece which you pulled out of me effectively was, it went from being a let's sort this problem out to hang on, that's not working. It was almost a blame game without meaning to be. It was like, babe, if you can do this, this, and this, and this, I can do this. Yeah. But when you do that, I can't do this. So you need to change this, and then I can become. And it was like, well, hang on. If you do that, I was like, well, no, because no, you got to. It's just. And it went from that.
Deeply compromised relationship.
It went from that
as
to
we started to compromise. Yeah.
It went from that to, hang on, let me just go away and look at me, and what can I change? Where maybe am I maybe not got all the pieces that I could, where could I maybe change? Where could I do things differently? And what blew me away was, it was like, okay, I could do the opposite there. That's probably, I've been doing all that wrong. And it was this realization of, oh my gosh, I've almost been doing the opposite of what I realize now I need to be doing. This is insane. And it was almost like, whoa, nobody ever showed me this. I thought I had to do more of that. But comes back to the insanity is doing more of the same thing and expecting a different result. And as a man, I just thought I had to work harder, do more of this stuff that I was doing. Actually made it worse.
Beautiful. So as you've sort of, been through this journey of coming to self and then seeing that there's the relationship as the third thing that you need to work on together, what patterns have you seen in your relationship? Are there some sort of common patterns of dynamics between you two that you've identified as you've dug into this a bit further that come to the surface that are really like typical in relationships?
Yeah, one of the key, or three of the key patterns that come to relationship are, and these are not so much theory, these are ones that I've lived through. So I would say within our relationship, I'm very much the agent of change. I am the one that would shapeshift and move and change how I'm being very quickly. So the patterns that really come through, which I did for a while, was Dan will like me more if I'm the same as him. So that's what we would call the relationship of saming. It's like our differences attracted each other, but very soon it's like, we find the common ground. We like the same thing. So the safe zone, if you like, the comfort zone becomes what is same. And the more saming you bring, the safer the environment. But at the same time, what that really does, it dials down on the passion. It dials down on the electricity. It dials down on the dynamism.
Because nobody's really being that extreme version of either the more feminine energy, or the more masculine energy, which creates that polarity, that opposites attract. It's dissolved.
And within that, once that kind of neutralizing or saming zone happened, I think for us there was a kickback and there's a recoil, because that's boring and that's flat. It's like a flatline relationship. You might as well be living with your grandma. And I love my grandmas. But then the opposite happens of that, which is you move extreme, as far away from the other as you can, because you're just like, well, I'm not the same as you, so I need to try and individuate. I want to be myself again, and I've lost myself in this relationship. So that was, you want to express that?
Yeah,
one?
It's not a pattern that we went into that much, but it's often where like the more masculine person, who may generally be the man goes into being a real kind of workhorse, just outwork the whole time, and the feminine partner is more kind of in the love, wanting the connection, but demanding more and more, so that he kind of goes more that way and she goes more into the kind of wanting it, and he's running away and she's, and it just becomes extreme. So there's a lot of chaos and he's just trying to escape the chaos almost. So that's one pattern, which not so much our pattern. Our pattern, if there was a third one, it's the reversing, where I actually moved more into the feminine love. I was chasing Jenny.
And within that, I felt suffocating, always having this need come towards me, and all I wanted was to be on my own, as far away. So I was seeking freedom, and very much went, and this is very common in relationships, one party will take up the role of evasion and avoidance and keep trying to escape the tethered feeling of being caged in relationship, which creates an instability where the other one then needs more reassurance, more safety, more security, more time together, more connection and more love. So Dan and I, through our journey of trying to, work this out, went from being so the same to completely reversing our innate nature and being the opposite, being extreme in the opposite.
And so when you go real extremes, and you can end up with a lot of chaos and drama. When you are almost the same, there's just not much passion, and we were often in that place. That was probably as good as the relationship got. There was no frustration. We sorted it out, but it was like no passion there. And then what we ended up with reversing, which can end up in real confusion. It's real like you're not quite your authentic self, and I didn't feel like I was able to be all of me. Jenny wasn't all of her, because we almost reversed roles effectively. So in a way there were those patterns which sorted themselves out.
So how do you deal with that situation when your partner is being something that you don't want them to be, and it forces you into another space? And so we're talking about the dynamic between two people, right? And it's really easy to blame the other person for doing it wrong.
It is.
So how do you kind of deal with the movement between those dynamics that you talked about?
So if I can speak into this, because I feel as I wouldn't even know if I'd say the more masculine one in this relationship, but I certainly I can take ownership of the fact that I wasn't, as the masculine who is meant to be more leading, the masculine leads and kind of is more directional, and the feminine is more bringing the love and the energy. I wasn't doing any leading in the relationship. And so that was one of the problems that we had, that I wasn't leading, but I wanted Jenny to bring the love. Now the problem with that is, because I wasn't leading, somebody had to lead the relationship.
So I took up that role, and I was really good at it, but it was hard in the way, because I felt then like I was leading a child, or leading a dog, or leading somebody who couldn't lead himself. So that feeling in my body was, oh God, it was a heaviness, it was a hardness, and I'm really good at that leadership quality. But where my gift is, where the feminine's, the masculine's gift is often leading in the seen realms, my gift is leading in the subtle realms, leading in the felt sense. So the more I had to kind of take up that role for two of us, it was like it actually diminished who I really was and what my real gift was. So in a way, it becomes, this inner cancel culture, until there's less and less and less available in that relationship space.
Wow, it's quite confronting what you're saying, like that dynamic in a relationship, to take responsibility for that and actually keep looking at each other and turning towards each other.
Yeah.
Like how was that?
And I love I love what you said, Jane, because what had happened to us, say I on the field, I'm naturally a shooter, or like I'm naturally more defensive. It's like I love to play in the defensive role in a soccer game. And Dan's naturally wants to score the goals. He wants to score the goals. He wants to score the goals, and he loves that. We'd switched, so I end up resentfully scoring the goals, but actually worrying about, have you got the defence covered? Because I'm really good at that, but I'm having to play shooter up here. So there's this constant testing and mistrust that was happening in everyday situations. Every day, the more, the mundane stuff, it becomes, so what actually happened for me, the trust eroded over time. I didn't trust that we were even on the same team anymore, because I was playing out of position. Dan was playing out of position, and we didn't even realize that for a long, long time. But we were feeling the consequence of the strain of playing out of position for a large amount of time. I was inauthentic.
And how did you take responsibility for your part in that, Dan? Like, what was the, how did you stand up and look in the mirror?
So, for me, I guess there was a lot of having to own the fact that, I don't want to say I'd been wrong, but I could do things differently. Effectively, I did 180 switches. And there was so many of them. There's so many different places where, I was such a yes man. I thought to say no to Jenny, for example, I thought would turn her against me. I thought she wouldn't love me. I'd lose her love. She'd go. Never kind of went too far down that track. But she'd find another man who would say yes. So I was always trying to say yes. But once I realized that no was actually no was a yes for me. No gained respect from Jenny. There was a way of saying no which was loving and kind. In fact, I once had a website. It was called No and I Love You. So that when Jenny said, do you want to come for dinner now? I could say, no, I'm going to do my weights. I'm going to exercise. And after I've exercised, I'll come for dinner. There's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of just stepping into, okay, I can see how that could be differently. And just acknowledging I'd done my best with the tools and the knowledge that I had. But nobody had ever shown me this. I never had a role model who said, this is how you can be an amazing husband, an amazing partner. This is what it is to be a man in today's society. And it's almost stepping into this strange place of being very powerful and strong and very loving. It was like, wow, can you do both? Is that attractive? Is that good? It's like, wow, I thought you had to be either loving or powerful, but you couldn't be both, especially not at the same time.
So you're really speaking into that journey that you talked about of finding yourself and knowing like who you are and your inner strength and your yes and no, and then looking at what you bring to the relationship.
This was the most amazing piece for me. And if I really want to give men and women hope and inspiration, what was funny is before I went away, you know, all the things I wanted, I had my checklist of I want a woman who loves me, who does this, who feels like this towards me, who shows me this.
Everything that I was not being. Everything that was
and I was trying to
the opposite of what
encourage,
was
I was trying to coach my Jenny into being these
You
things.
just need to be this.
When I changed who I was and how I was being, all those things just happened. And it was like, so there's a word called evoke. When I changed, when you change, the world around you changes. The way you interact with someone will evoke a different response from them. And boy, is it true with your partner. When you change,
It's huge.
Yeah.
And one of the key changes that I felt when Dan came back from, I guess, this self-realization, but more than that, a self-actualization. It's like an actualizing of what he theorized might work, to trying it and test running it. One of the biggest pieces was, I call it, I've got it. The I've got it energy. I've got it. And what I'd been feeling in the past was Dan didn't feel he had it, but he wanted it. So what I would always feel in the relationship field is a lack of, and I want it from you. I want this from you. I need this from you. And because I'm quite sensitive to that energy, as I believe most of us are, but we can dial down on feeling that, right? That was where I closed. When all that was coming towards me was, I feel I don't have this, but I want it from you. That was the wall to my heart, the wall to my body, the wall to my availability. Until you've got it, like, I'm not available. Been available for too many years, giving. So when Dan came back and it was like, I found it, I was like, well, that feels a bit different. So instead of broadcasting a lack of, it was like, whoa, you've got different engine under the hood. You know, you've got a new fuel on board that's your own full. Actually, feels like your tank is actually full. And that you've got your own ignition. Oh my God, you've got your own key to start up this vehicle. Wow, you've got a GPS now. You actually feel like you know where you're going. So I hope you can feel from this. It's what happened in me. Instead of being closed to, oh, you want the missing piece from me, to this intrigue of like, who are you that's got it? Who are you that is full? Who are you that knows who he is and knows where he's going? So instantly it evoked an open field from me. Open, receptive, curious, generative. I was all on that field. Whereas before, it was like the coach had to like make me stand there for like 2 minutes before I ran off again.
And from, just to narrow down what that I've got it is, from my masculine kind of man place, it was almost, it was a love of life. It was a love of myself. That I can own the fact that I feel like we entered the relationship a bit where I was actually in the masculine. I'll do all of this stuff and get stuff done, and you provide the love. And it's a very common basic foundation of relationships. and the
Like
man,
an early trade.
early trade. It was like trading. You bring the love, I'll bring the more consciousness and the man stuff, and that'll be the deal. And I think this happens a lot, that as the relationship goes on over the years and evolves, often the
deal
female
doesn't feel as good.
Yeah,
the deal
the man
feels
might
empty.
be happy with it, but the woman goes, no, I want to have more of, a bit of everything, and they don't want to just do this trading that I've got to give you this for that. And that's where we got to, where I was like, well, what's changed? It's like, you've changed.
And this is one, very briefly, it's one of the big pieces, is the relationship resentment that builds up. So when there's this trading that's happening either consciously or unconsciously, in an obvious way or in a very subtle way, energetically, that is where the tank of resentment builds up.
Yeah.
And it's important in relationships to remember, resentment is anger looking for payback. So anger looking for payback is always going to be, you owe me. You owe me. So instantly you're working in debt, relationship debt. And this is so common. That is where we had got to, but an extreme version of that.
And I thought Jenny owed me because I was working so hard, and you owed me some love, and you weren't giving it me. So when I went away, I realized, hang on, I can't keep expecting Jenny to fill my tank and make me and give me the love, whether it's physical touch or whatever sort of love, or caring for me, or cooking, or in the bedroom, or whatever. I can't be constantly saying, fill me up, make me feel good and full, because I'm empty. I need to find my own love. So that was a journey in itself of going, do I love me? And even saying no was part of being able to say no to you, because it's a yes for me.
Hey Dan.
Yeah.
Part of the relationship code is about feeling it in the body. I'm wondering if you could give a transmission to what it feels like to have it, to I got it, and just show Jen what it is to have it now, because we don't want to stay in the head, right? Part of the beauty of this relationship code is that we're translating these concepts into what it feels.
So, yeah, I'll give it my best shot. So when I didn't have it, there was always this, I was looking at Jenny as having got it. And there was an empty, there's almost a curvature of the heart was back. There was an emptiness in the gut. There wasn't even a feeling of power. It was almost wanting to pounce on. And not even in a physical way, but it's like always needing the touch and not wanting to be left alone.
Okay, what's the opposite to that?
So that would be the I've lost it, isn't it?
I
don't have it.
Yeah, and then
I've got it.
Is
here you go.
I've got it.
The weird thing about it is, before, what I feel, this is the weirdest thing. Before, when I didn't have it, I felt like if you were to disappear, I would die. That's probably the best way to put it. I would be dead. If you found another man, if you left me, if something happened, I wouldn't be able to survive. But now that I've got it, I love you even more, and I got it. I'll be okay. And I am happy on my own, which is like massive. The love is coming from in here, because I've got it. It's not coming give me some to kind of give you a bit back. I'm anchored into the earth, to the planet, like just walking around, being in the water, swimming, just exercising. I love me so much, and I'm being filled up like every day from out there, not from you, like out there. So I'm full, and I got love to give. Yeah, and that makes me feel powerful and strong. I got it.
I got it too. Yeah.
What was the shift for you in that? Before and after?
I forgot there's a camera in the room.
Perfect.
Because that felt sense of when another has got their own life. And the biggest piece for me was, I know this might sound weird, but I hope you can just bear with me on this. I knew for many years I was the love of Dan's life, and it felt terrifying. And now it's like Dan has a love of his life. That is his. He loves his life. I am the love of my life. I love my life. And when we're in that dynamic, what happens here is a whole field that is loving, connected, expressive, authentic, and is a space of evolution and growth. It is a space of thrival as opposed to surviving.
Beautiful. We're going to wrap this one up for now. We'll come back and check in on a few more topics. If there was one thing that you would like people to take away from the relationship code, what is it that you would wish for?
For me, following on very closely from that final kind of piece we touched on, is happy wife, happy life. Don't make your woman the center of your life. That's what I started our marriage off. I started saying Jenny will be, I'll put her first. But it ended up with Jenny was like this. Like if I put a plate and I say this is my life, Jenny was the cake. And when I showed that to Jenny, I said this is what I've got in my life. Jenny went, well, that's just me. Haven't you got anything else? I was like, no, that's it. You're the most amazing thing in the world. And I thought that was wonderful. But there was no excitement now, I realized, for Jenny. To say to Jenny that you're the most exciting thing you'll find in this world. Really? Is that it? Yeah. How cool is that? Oh, I was hoping there might be more. No, you're it. You're the greatest thing in the world. I thought that was what you wanted, but of course it's not. And so now I realize I've got to make an amazing cake of a life for me without Jenny involved in it, or she can be involved. And then there's this invitation to come and join and almost be the icing on the top, or to be a part of it, whatever part. And it's such a transformation of my life, going, I'm going to make an amazing life and invite you to be a part of it. So
cake baking for relationships, beautiful.
Yeah.
Jen, what's your wish for people to take away from this?
My desire for people to take away from this, I guess it follows on from Dan's concept of creating the cake of your life, the love of your own life, is, and I guess in a way it's such a feminine principle, is to magnify and know what ingredients you bring. Like, what are the ingredients I bring? And to know with confidence and passion that I can bring so many of my ingredients. They're never ending. The more I uncover and discover inside myself, the more ingredients I bring to the relationship, the more the magnificence of the game that we play together can become. So it's the what am I bringing? And the relationship field will literally amplify the ingredients. So that's the beauty, and that's a journey I'll never stop, is to keep checking in on the ingredients I bring and our ability to amplify the gold in each other.
Beautiful, thank you. And in further videos we'll talk more about some of the tools in the relationship code too. How to play the game on the field.
How to play the game on the field. Amazing.